If you run your own business or you do sales, you've probably heard something like this: the fortune's in the follow up. You've probably heard that a million times because it's true. According to statistics, most sales are made after 7 to I think 11 touches now because of social media and all that kind of stuff. So, in this video, I'm going to teach you some effective ways to do a sales follow up call so that you actually get the money in the bank. Before diving into one of my favorite topics, my clients will tell you that I love doing sales training because this is the one thing that makes such a huge difference and helps you take total financial control of your business. Before getting into my sales call follow-up tips, make sure to hit the notification bell and subscribe because I've got new stuff like this coming out every single week. So, it's true. The fortune's in the follow up. When I'm doing consistent follow up in my business, I can make tens of thousands of dollars in like a 3-day period. It is true. When I'm not doing consistent follow up in my business and I get distracted by other things, then, the cash doesn't flow as well. Now, why is the fortune in the follow up? Well, it's very rare unless you're really good, and I consider myself a pretty damn good salesperson. But unless you're really good and unless you've already built some sort of rapport online through online branding and marketing, which is part of what I teach my students in Persuade to Profit, unless you've done that, it's very rare that you're going to get someone to tell you yes off the bat. Now, I can do it, right? But again, I consider myself a pretty good salesperson and I'm pretty practiced at this, and I've already built quite a name for myself, so that helps. Even still, even with all of that, I usually have to end up doing some sort of follow-up. Not everybody is a yes right away, and that's totally cool. Now, here's where everybody bungles it. They do one follow-up and they're done because they feel like they're being annoying. They feel like super in their feelings about being rejected, and none of that stuff is true. The reality is, people get busy. This person has a problem. You have the solution to said problem, and it is your responsibility and your duty to let them know that the solution to this problem exists and that you are the one who can help them with it. As I teach many of my clients, you have to be more committed to solving a prospect's problem than you are to their own bullshit excuses about why they haven't done something about it yet. And when you're in that sort of mentality, that's when you have the conviction and the confidence to get someone off the fence, because that is the reality. Either they're going to end up going with someone else who's probably going to be mediocre in solving their problem, or they're just going to keep having the same problem. So because of that, you have to make sure that you have a consistent follow-up process. Now, the other place where people bungle it is they're not very creative in how they do sales follow-up calls, right? They bungle it big time because they're not very original. They're just like, hey, just following up on this thing. And there's better ways of doing it, which I will share in this video today. And third, they bungle it because they're not calling people, period. A lot of you are relying way too much on social media and email communication. Now, I teach those things, I use those things obviously, but I do it with a strategy, and that doesn't keep me from picking up the phone, because when I do all of those things and I pick up the phone, I could turn something that was potentially $1,700 into a $15,000 deal. So that's why it's so important to actually have conversations with people if you want to do high ticket sales and make good money. So with that being said, let's get into these tips so that you can become a sales call follow-up ninja. All right, guys, so tip number 1 is just about being consistent. A lot of you drop the ball after one follow-up and you get distracted. So it's really important that you're following up with people every day. The way that I have it set up in my company right now is I have a list of people that I'm following up with, and every day I'm hitting up at least 5 or 6 of those, sometimes more if I have more time. So that's number 1. I mean, if you just literally become more consistent than everybody else that's out there, you're naturally going to make more money, because at the end of the day, sales is pretty much just a numbers game at its bare basics, bare minimum. If you do more, you're going to make more. And most people are too lazy or too scared to follow up more than once, or they're not doing it consistently. So be smart about it and be consistent. One of my favorite ways to do sales follow-up calls, and something that's very effective and works very well, is every time I have a new client win or a major client testimonial, I'm calling up my follow-ups and I'm being like, hey, we just got this person. We taught them how to do sales and they got 13 high-ticket clients in 4 weeks. I know we can do the same for you. Let's get this going. It's that simple, right? I'm not like, hey, I'm just following up on this thing. Do you still have this problem? Which there's a way of doing that. Instead, I'm being more assertive and I'm like, because I already know they have a problem and I already know I have the solution to the problem and I already know I'm helping people in similar situations. So when I get a huge client win like that, I'm immediately picking up the phone and doing follow-ups and being like, hey, we just helped this client do this and we can do this too. When are we getting started? Are you doing sales in your own business and in your own company? Have you already implemented some tips like this? Have you been trained to do stuff like that? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't, which one of these tips are you planning on implementing this week? So something I've been implementing recently since I started taking YouTube more seriously is using YouTube as leverage, using these videos as leverage when I'm doing sales follow-up calls to close the sale. So what do I mean by that? For example, there were prospects I was speaking to who were having a problem with pitching, right? So what did I do? I created a video about pitching and then I did my sales follow-up call and I was like, hey, remember that problem you were having? Well, I created this video to help you out. This is just scratching the surface of what you're gonna get in my program. This is like just a little taste and it's really good. And if my free stuff is good, my paid stuff is even better. And that's why my clients get results like X, Y, and Z. Let's get you signed up. And my last sales follow-up tip requires some cojones. It works well for my personality. Again, I'm in the right mindset. I've been doing this for a really long time. I'm very accustomed to hearing people's excuses because that's essentially what they are, right? I've been in the game long enough where no one can tell me anything that's going to faze me at this point. So sometimes in sales, what you got to do is you got to challenge people, right? Because people are constantly like making up excuses as to why they can't do things and they're terrified of making decisions for themselves. I go deeper into this in my Persuade to Profit training, but just for now, know that it's true. And any seasoned salesperson is going to tell you the exact same thing. Yeah, people are full of excuses and they don't know how to make decisions, right? So sometimes what you do during a sales follow-up call is you actually challenge them. So if this is like the 7th time that you're doing it and you get them on the phone, just call them out on their bullshit, right? And be like, listen, what are we doing here? Okay, we've been talking about this like 7 times already. Are we doing it or not? Because I got a full pipeline of people I got to reach out to. And once it's gone, it's gone. And I got to put this stuff on ice for like 6 months and you're going to get locked out and it's going to be more expensive later. So what are we doing here? See? You say that with confidence. It's not to be a jerk. It's not to be an asshole. It's just knowing that sometimes people need that little push and they need that challenge just to make a damn decision because they're way too up in here, right? Or in their feelings to actually make rational decisions. And sometimes you kind of got to break them out of it. All right, guys, so those are 4 tips on how to do a sales follow-up call. This is much more creative and way more effective than I'm just following up on this thing that we talked about. That doesn't really work. But the tips that I shared with you today they're effective. They've worked for me. They've worked for a lot of my clients. One of my most recent Persuade to Profit students actually closed 13 clients in a 4-week period after I put her in the hot seat during her sales training. So this stuff works and it's effective. Which one are you planning on using this week? Let me know in the comments below. As always, guys, if you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Also, comment below with your thoughts. If you know anybody who's struggling with sales follow-up, send this video to them. And as always, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because you guys asked for it. I'm going to give it to you. You guys love my sales stuff. So I am going to be bringing more of it to you. Make sure to subscribe and join the YouTube fam. Survive.